Welcome, everyone, to our LinkedIn Live today. I'm Bruce Eckfeldt. I'm your host and moderator. I'm going to introduce our topic. I'm going to introduce our guests, and then we're going to get into things. So today's topic is an interesting one. I'm fascinated by this. I spend a lot of time in the agency world, and so I'm excited for this conversation. Our title today, Rethinking Creative Services and the Agency Model in the Age of AI. A lot of kind of interesting angles and topics here, but want to get into the discussion. Let me introduce our guests. First up, I've got Johnny Lehane. He is an executive leadership coach, business strategist. He helps founders operationalize their vision, leverage AI for efficiency, and build scalable systems for growth. Johnny, welcome to the program.
Thanks a lot. Great to be here.
It's a pleasure. Next up, I've got Carl Smith. He is the leader of a creative agency community. We're going to hear more about that. And he helps agencies navigate change, AI being one of them. He also helps with new business and AI impact. Carl, welcome to the program.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Bruce.
Yeah, it's good to have you here. Before we get into the discussion, so if you're watching here, if you're watching live on LinkedIn and you want to leave a question or have a comment, go ahead and throw that onto the page. We'll watch those. I'll weave it into the conversation as we go. We're also streaming on YouTube. If you are on YouTube and you have a comment or question, jump over to LinkedIn. I'm not going to watch the YouTube comments today, but feel free to jump over. If you do have a comment or question, put it on LinkedIn and we'll weave it in. If you're watching the replay on any one of those platforms or any of the platforms we have on here, go ahead and put comments and questions in there. We'll all watch that in the coming days and weeks, and we'll get to those. So even if you're watching the replay, go ahead and engage there, and we'll catch it and we'll answer those. So let's get into this. I'm kind of curious, my first question for each of you is kind of, when did AI kind of first become kind of a business issue for you? I know, people were kind of playing around with AI as kind of a toy for a little while, but I'd love to hear, like, when did AI first kind of land for you as being, oh, this is going to change things from a business point of view? Johnny, why don't we hear from you first on this one?
Great. Thanks, Bruce. And thanks for having us. For me, it really was at that 2023, the ChatGPT launch, because I've always been what I consider a digital frontiersman.
Yep.
So when I saw it and played with it, I was like, oh my gosh, some people are going to know how to use this and some people aren't going to know what to do.
Yeah.
So I need to get ahead of the curve where I usually like to ride and make sure that I know enough to make sure that people understand the difference between the hype and the fear and the actual practicality.
Yeah.
And then realizing how quickly it was changing, I saw that this is a long ride of continually staying ahead of folks and helping them readjust and refactor to what can AI do for me today.
Yeah. Was there any first interesting application for you? Like when did it actually help you with something, I guess? When did it go from being a toy that's like, ooh, this was actually helpful for me. It saved me time.
The one that comes to mind is probably the really common one. Before all the Zoom and everybody got their own little bots, is I started using it that way for the summaries, right?
Yeah.
I have my own recorder. I was like, I'm recording everything. I'm copying these transcripts in and I'm summarizing them because I am an avid note taker, and that really jumps for me. And then I also remember meeting up with an old friend, and he was like, have you tried Replit yet? And I hadn't coded in 15 years.
Yeah.
And I went home that night and solved a problem I'd been banging my head on the wall that I didn't have the resources to do. I hadn't hired one of Carl's friends. And I stayed up till midnight and I wrote something that was useful. And I was like, oh, wow, this is a game changer. Yeah. And then right away, I was like, how do I help my clients and prospective clients learn how to use these tools?
Yeah, that's great. Carl, so tell us your story. When did AI first land for you, and what was the application?
Yeah, I think it's very similar to what you're saying, Johnny. It was probably right around 2023. I know in the community around 2022, a lot of our way out there folks were starting to talk about things that were happening. They were talking about like video that AI was working on. They were talking about like actual, I would say, more creative applications. But then once ChatGPT showed up, especially for me, because like I'm a little older, right? So I remember playing with Eliza. I remember playing with these early chatbots that were just like psychologists that were just going, well, how did that make you feel? And I started playing with ChatGPT and I realized this is pretty cool. But a friend of mine and I got together with a bottle of scotch and tried to get it to break its rules.
Yeah.
and we got it to assume the role of evil chat GPT that didn't listen to any of its stuff and got it to tell amazingly inappropriate jokes, right? And I was like, this is deadly. This is not good. But the first practical application was, I mean, we've got over 1,000 people in Slack, and people don't want to deal with it. So it was about grabbing all those messages, putting them into chat GPT, saying, anonymize this, give us a narrative of what these conversations were. And then I put it back out to the community, right? And we got different private channels, so different groups are getting different ones. We actually had a couple of AI ethicists in the group that said, hey, you're sharing our private conversations with everybody out there. And we have a bureau oath that says you won't share things outside of the group that it was originally, brought to. And so we had to shut it down. But then we've recently brought it back with a different, about a year and a half ago. And that's the main thing I think I've seen. Also, I'm a pretty good writer. I think it makes me a really good writer, just like my friends who are pretty good coders can become really good coders. So it's like, I think it enhances some of those other things, and it helps me do more of what I wanted to do already.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, 2023, I think is when it first came in. And then Claude and a lot of the others started to pop up, and I've played with so many.
Yeah. So I'm curious in terms of the, companies you work with, clients you serve, like how did this start? Like, Johnny, you mentioned kind of, having this epiphany or seeing like, hey, this is going to change the game for these people that I work with or the people I help. Like, where did that start? Like, how did the conversation start, or what was the first kind of application or use case or challenge where AI became, part of a solution or discussion as a potential solution for it? And what was that conversation like?
So I would say the conversation that jumps to mind for me is one of the things I started asking at non-tech business conferences of small business executives is, how are you using AI today?
Yeah.
And I would ask that question. And inevitably, the answer I got back a lot was, well, probably not enough. They're like, I don't know how to use it. And then I would explain to them about, to me, it's part of the build by partner solution question. It's like, what technology are you using today? What hurts, right? Where's the technology failing you? And those are the points where it's like, is the software that you already have leveraging better AI that you're not using? Are there competitors out there that are doing a better job at leveraging AI to solve the same problem that you should consider? Or should maybe that painful point, you can just write a little bit of code for that a lot easier than you used to be able to, or you can use some of the AI-enabled elixirs to get that done, like N8N, and et cetera. Yeah. So for me, it's really, the conversation started with what hurts in operations. And we think we can fix that either with off-the-shelf AI or using AI to write a solution quicker and cheaper than you would have in the past. Because it felt impossible. It was like, what would take 40 hours now takes 4. So it used to be a project, and now it's a task.
Yeah. Yeah, I certainly found like a lot of my initial application was things that took me, many, many hours, took me amount of time. Or what I produce in 2 hours, went from this much to this much because I could, I could do so much more in terms of processing data or doing insights or collecting. Like, I do all these interviews with executives, with teams, before I do these meetings. And so, now I could have a lot more time interviewing and then do all the processing with AI rather than going through my notes and trying to write up all the takeaways and stuff. So,
to Carl's point though, like, it makes a good engineer a great engineer or a faster engineer, but it makes a bad engineer create a lot more bad things quickly, right?
Yeah, like accentuates wherever you are on that spectrum.
It amplifies who you are.
Yeah, it's an amplifier, right?
Yeah.
And the big thing is that you still need that judgment.
Yeah.
And so I've gotten back into software, which was my early career. But my early career taught me from quality assurance and system operations how to be an architect. Yeah. So I'm in a good spot. But if you think, oh, now I'm a software architect because I have a bunch of dumb software agents, you're going to run into problems.
Yeah, bad buildings. Carl, what have you noticed in terms of like where, in terms of the clients or the companies you were working with, advising, part of your community, like where were the initial challenges and applications for AI?
I think one of the first things I saw was, we have a saying, my efficiency can't become my team's inefficiency. right? And so there were times like I write a newsletter, and that's going to take an hour and a half away from my ops person. We're a small team, right? So she should be working on fine tuning logistics for something, and I'm disrupting her. Okay, well, now AI can give me my efficiency and not put it on somebody else,
Yeah.
like what I was doing. So I think that was part of it, like, leaning into that and not doing anything that was going to make it in charge. Like that was a big part of it for us. It's kind of the Hell's Kitchen. We're Gordon Ramsay. It can cook, but we're going to have to check it at the pass. I'll say research was huge for me early on, like being able to take so much content that I had gathered and put it in. And at the beginning, as I'm sure you all remember, ChatGPT was like, the memory wasn't the best, this and that. Now it's pretty good. So
Yeah.
I think the earliest use of it that just went through the community so fast was one of our agencies is Sear in Philly, one of the best SEO search firms. And Will Reynolds, who was kind of leading the charge for AI for a lot of us in the community, he basically took all of their 200 plus case studies that they had done, put them into a private GPT, and then would say, this is the client's goals. These are the things we know. Which case studies should we use? And he said there were case studies they didn't even know they had.
Yeah.
That it started bringing out because they were always into muscle memory. So they started winning projects that they're not sure they would have won because they had case studies that were more relevant, because it was just about processing massive quantities of data. I think that was the early use that a lot of us had back in 2023, 24.
Yeah.
It's 26 and we're saying early use.
Yeah, I know. Time frame is very compressed. I remember I probably have 250, almost 300 articles on Inc. around, various leadership and business topics. I threw them all into a notebook and an LM. And now when a client, calls, or a prospect or anyone's like, hey, like they have this challenge, I just throw that question into that notebook, and it gives me the 3, 4, 5 articles, that I wrote on this, and I can send it. It actually creates the email to them and everything. So this idea of being able to quickly reference large volumes of data, it was really interesting. I found that there was a lot of how to do my business faster, easier, better in the early days. But now we're in this kind of rethinking the actual business models and how do I actually provide these services. I'd love to kind of get a sense from each of you on like, where have you seen AI like fundamentally change the nature of the business, or how, a company is approaching kind of their business model or business process? Any interesting kind of cases out there of a real kind of innovation on this rather than just kind of optimization of things? Johnny, I don't know if you have any good examples on that side.
So for coaches and from the coaching standpoint, one of the things for me was actually sort of turning the mirror back on myself. Yeah. So it's great to summarize these transcripts and define action items and all of that. And that's nice. But actually, like you were inquiring of all of your articles to answer questions for other folks, I'll inquire of all my transcripts to say, how am I doing? So that analyst thing, I was like, hey, how did I do in helping this person in support either this week or over time? Are they making progress? So being able to self-reflect and look at progress over time in an analytical way is one that's been really new and novel for me. And then again, it may feel obvious to those of us that are in this position. But when building new tools, even if I'm not a developer, I'm going to prototype it with Nana Banana or now Stitch from Google. Like there's so many tools out there where I'm doing a digital empowerment project with a not-for-profit, and we see holes in their technology. I would have drawn wireframes by hand to do A/B testing in these early things. I'm going to have really nice looking wireframes for folks to look at. I've done my listening sessions, which were all transcribed and summarized for me. And now I'm going to have these beautiful wireframes. I didn't have to engage a developer or designer yet, right? I can just use the folks who understand the customer to do that.
Yeah. Carl, what have you seen in terms of just fundamental changes in approaches to business or business models?
Yeah, I think a big part of it, and Johnny, you hit it on this just a little bit. people are changing their businesses. And I think even at the beginning, like we hit the pandemic and we go, okay, don't waste a good crisis. Let's make sure we retool things. But then people started to, when AI came in, accelerate broken systems, right? And so then they had to back up and they had to look at it. I'll say one of the things I've seen, like you look at Gong or you look at Fathom, and the way that they have allowed so many of us to be better performers, really, to be better humans in the way that we engage with folks. One of the things I did in 2024, I think, was I connected Fathom using Zapier to Todoist, and then had that go to Reclaim. So basically, anything I committed to was automatically going to be on my calendar before I ever looked at it. And I am notoriously saying yes to things and then forgetting about them, and then find out 3 years later somebody's really mad at me. Right. And so it's like one of those things where I think that is one of the earliest in terms of just making us all, we can pay better attention. Like when I get ready to go onto a call now for somebody that I had a call with 2 weeks ago, I go back into that Fathom and I ask it questions.
Yeah.
Right. What did we say? What was her main point? What did I agree to? Those types of things. But yeah, I think overall, the biggest thing is it's a partner. It's a teammate. It's a tool.
Yeah.
And the folks who came out early and tried to make it their company, that was not good.
Yeah. Well, there's too many fundamental challenges. I love your example. And if you could figure out how to close loop that so that Fathom would mute you on your conversations, prevent you from actually making any more.
Oh my God, that would be amazing. It's my favorite part is where it says monologues, right?
Yeah.
I'm better in meetings now because I don't want to score that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know that there's salespeople who are using Gong. If folks listening are familiar, it basically lets them know, you're dominating, you're coming across as passive aggressive. Let them talk. Right. And so it's like, I think AI is really good at those things. It's really good at patterns. It's really horrible at context. It's really horrible at anything that has to do really with any level of emotion or any level of empathy.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we need to keep it in its lane.
Yeah. Yeah. I do a similar one with Fathom where I now at the end of the day, my EA goes through and looks and takes all the transcripts down, and I get a summary the next morning of all the kind of key points and mostly the commitments. Like, okay, what are the to-dos coming out of the meetings? And what's fascinating for me is like in the meetings now, I'm much more present, right? Because I'm not trying to sit there and kind of capture all this stuff during the meeting. I can just sit there and listen, and I'll even say things in the meeting knowing that it's going to be on the transcript to come back to me. So I'll say, oh yeah, I need to make a note to get back to you on that thing. I need to remind myself to get back, because then I know the transcript's going to have it, because I know that's going to come the next morning and I'm going to put it on my to-do list. So it's actually changing my behavior in how I connect with clients in these meetings and how I do my coaching work and things like that.
So I was going to say, it's funny how a pure tech can give us confidence.
Yeah.
I'm much more confident in my conversations and relationships now because I also have this pass where I can go through ChatGPT and say, how does this sound? And find out, right? And it's wrong sometimes, but whatever. So.
Well, but it's feedback, right? Like it's not, I'm not going to say, tell me how I should do it. It's like, give me your opinion or do the analysis, and then I'll decide what I want to do with that feedback. But oftentimes it's quite good, or at least it points something out that I might not have considered that is actually quite helpful in helping me make a decision.
I've told people recently, don't use it as a consultant, use it as a combatant.
Yeah.
Like, tell it to disagree with you, tell it to poke holes in things that you want, and see if you can actually defend it or believe in it enough.
Well, and I hope that people use it against itself in that way as well. Yeah. Some folks have now come out with this room of rivals, but it's one of the early cases that I did when I had it developing spec sheets for brainstorms that I had on plugins that I wanted to develop or thought should exist. It would say, oh, that's a great idea. Let me design all this thing and all that. I'm like, all right, now bring an architect into the conversation and beat up that idea. Now bring a venture capitalist into the room and beat up that idea. And it really, that works, right? The persona aspect is super interesting, and
super great.
And it's getting better.
Yeah.
One of the two things that come to my mind, one is some of the things, Carl, you've said it's bad at. True, but wait a week. Like or consult whoever you know is out there on the frontier.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things is I'll talk to somebody who's like, oh, I tried it and it didn't do the thing. I'm like, when did you try that? They're like last January. I'm like, yeah, okay. Like we're not moving on internet time anymore. We're moving on AI time. Like this stuff is really, really fast. But the questions I had for you, Bruce, because I haven't used EAs a lot or virtual assistants, is in today's environment, when do you decide I'm going to leave that with the EA versus why don't I just automate that? Like, why is the EA still doing the transcription, pull together and push versus like, oh, let me see if I can figure out a way that just happens for me?
Yeah, I guess what I find is that I will use it's sort of very discrete tasks that I can model and make an SOP around and a fairly kind of detailed instruction set. I can have AI do. But I still need kind of a human at times to be able to kind of pull together that work, particularly if I'm going to be changing it a lot. And I want to have someone who can sort of think a little bit more about it. But it's now a three-way team, right? It's me, EA, and AI. And we work together on, thing. And I do a lot of instruction sets for her that she, uses and then sends them back, and we edit and we change. So I think they're particular tools that if you can figure out where the strengths and weaknesses are and then work them together, and it's changing, right? Like there's definitely things that my AI used to do that now AI is doing. I think the key thing there is figuring out how to then upskill or to kind of find the next thing, right? How do I expand? So it saves her a couple of hours. Well, now what's the thing that she can do for me with that couple of hours that adds to the whole system rather than just figuring out, okay, I'm trying to get rid of her, or I'm trying to like replace her with AI. It's like, no, I want to make her more and more valuable by taking these
upskill and upskilling. Yeah. And you hit on the two things that always come to mind for me, right? Yeah. Is judgment required, like actual judgment required, right? Okay, human in the loop, right? You can offer me suggestions, but I'm the go, no go, or a human is going to be the judgment there. And the other thing is change and different versions of iterate badly, right? It's like, it's going to change, but I'm going to iterate. Your first agent should do one thing badly is something they say at Crew AI. Yeah. And I just think that's so true, because you'll see folks in the software world who are like, I've got an idea. We're going to have 40 agents and each one of them is going to have a job. And they're in the old waterfall software design mindset, and they try to design a whole thing. And even when you document it, you don't actually know how a process works until you set a human or an AI about trying to do it.
Yeah. Well, and the process changes and the technology changes, right? And if I've got a super brittle system or a super tightly coupled system, now I want to replace a particular tool or I want to replace an underlying model or something. It's like, okay, it becomes really hard. Whereas if I got a little bit of wetware in there, like it's easy just to swap this out. They just use this one rather than this one.
Yeah.
But Carl,
I want to riff off what Johnny said for a second about how, okay, that didn't work a year ago or 2 months ago or last week, right? It's interesting because in the agency world, one of the things we saw the second half of last year, people were starting to slow down. They were worried about it, and they were losing projects or approval of projects were getting stretched out because people were looking to use AI to do the project instead of the agency. They were looking to hire a freelancer to manage AI to do the thing. The first and second quarter of this year is a huge rebound. A lot of those projects, the ones they didn't get, are coming back going, we thought we could do this with AI, but it didn't work. I think clients are savvy. Clients are getting savvier. They have the same tools we have. They can see the same things. They can ask the same questions, but they don't trust it once it breaks once. And I think that's the future for a lot of creative service shops is they want to buy trust from somebody. And we have to be at the front of this wave. We have to know when suddenly ChatGPT can do a thing, or suddenly Claude or one of the, infinite. There's like well over 1,000 that people are looking at right now. And it's interesting because we even had a meeting. We have this monthly call called AI Did What? And it's a monthly show and tell where somebody comes in to show something that they did. And it's funny how a couple of months later, it may be they said, hey, that thing I showed you actually is irrelevant now because it's built into this thing over here, right? So I think that a big part of it for agencies is keeping their composure and realizing the clients need a truth teller. They need an external voice that they're not going to get from inside. And they want to partner with agencies for outcomes, not process.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things you really have to keep an eye on right now. Blair Enns was talking earlier this week at one of our events about, is this really the end of time and materials? Right?
Mm-hmm.
It might be,
yeah.
But I don't think it's the end. I think pricing doesn't just go to value-based. I think it becomes accountability pricing. Like we have common metrics and KPIs with clients. And if we hit them together, we move forward. And if we don't, we ask questions.
Yeah.
So it's so deep. This thing is so deep.
And it's a different kind of time, right? It's not time to churn out repeatable processes, but the time of the folks who have experienced discernment and judgment becomes a lot more valuable.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some price recalibrations that are going to be really challenging where it's like, what? How can you charge that much for your time? It's like, you're getting the work for free now in some respects, right? Mm-hmm. But the judgment and discernment and the truth is where the real value is. And I think one of the other traps that the agency owners and consultants really need to avoid is when the truth changes and deteriorates their own business value, that they don't step up and say what you just said, Carl. Hey, that thing that I told you last week to do this way, and it's going to take 10 hours. Now you can do it this way, and it's going to take you 1. That's how you maintain the trust and the value. And where they're going to say, I just need to keep you on retainer because I know I can ask you and trust you that you're going to tell me what the tech can do and cannot do today.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I'm curious. I think one of the things I've certainly been kind of interested in, I think comes up in a lot of these conversations, is the idea of the actual creative service itself or the kind of creativity. And, fundamentally AI is, learning based on things that, you teach or you expose it to, right? It's about the past, right? Like its ability to actually be innovative or novel or creative or generative, I think is still in question, right? Maybe it's going to get there at some point. But where do you see kind of the role of agencies, the roles of the kind of the creative aspect of agencies, given kind of the world of AI, and how have you seen agencies kind of still kind of maintain or capture or own that kind of generative creative side, as opposed to just the, hey, I can run this process faster, or we can analyze this data more quickly? Have you seen any good examples of folks maintaining the creative control around this? Either one of you. I don't know who's got an example.
It's up to you, Johnny. You want to go?
What I would say is like, it's definitions to me. It's like, don't mistake randomness for creativity, though they are partners. And
that's glorious, man.
You do have to turn up the randomness if you're going to make attempts at AI generating creativity, and you can do that. But where AI doesn't have right now is knowing beauty and elegance. And where the real creatives are is those that are like, you need beauty and elegance in this situation. Here it is, right? AI can't discern that today. That's where they're just going to try to summate it to the mean, and they're not going to get. And I don't know if they're able to get there. That's a different kind of machine than we're building today.
Yeah. Carl, what's your take on this?
I think what creatives, creativity, creative agencies, whatever, it's still what they sell is the same ideas, right? They form different ways, they get executed different ways. And Johnny said it, right? It's like any LLM or any creative system is built off what's already happened before. And we need to look at what's happening going forward. And I think for creative teams, one of the big changes is they're going from projects to patterns, right? And they need to look like, I saw an Aura Ring ad the other day. There was 100% AI, but they got me. And there was nothing that could have happened in the past that maybe they grabbed from some things that were innovative or this or that, but there was a human who said, this will rock. Somebody that saw it and said yes. And I think focus groups were always kind of bullshit, $50 in a sandwich, tell me what you think. But I think we can now watch how humans interact with creativity, and we can adapt on the fly. And so I think it's not so much that original idea, but it's the ability. Yes, we can execute faster, but we have to watch longer, because now we can make just subtle shifts, right? A/B testing is no longer wait until it's done.
Yeah.
It's a change it while it's out there.
Yeah. Real time.
And so I think that's where the creatives really come in. And we were talking about before, I think a person who was an art director is now a creative director. A person who was a writer is now an editor, right? But they have to have deep domain knowledge, because that's something that if you don't have it, you're not going to catch the mistake, right? And then something that was created by AI goes out public and the public catches the mistake. So I think that's the other part. Agencies have to get hyper specialized. They have to get really deep domain knowledge, and then they have to partner with other agencies when necessary. Because otherwise you're just going to grow teams to try to manage all this stuff, and it's going to be bloat.
Yeah.
And it's going to sink you. But I think the key is still it's ideas and patterns, and execution you get support with.
Yeah. Excellent.
Carl.
Yeah, Johnny.
I work with a lot of students at school. I work at a university. I'm an entrepreneur in residence at SUNY New Paltz. And I've got a cadre of contemporary lit and other professors who are like, I want an AI-free environment for my classroom. And that's all right for your classroom. Don't say you want AI-free education. I'm going to push back very hard on that. But we know one of the big concerns out there is the new entrance into the workforce. So if you're looking at those who think of themselves as, I want to be in the creative agency, I want to be out there and I'm new. Like, what do you think they should be focused on, either in school or right when they get out of school?
No, I think that's brilliant. And I'll tell you right now, one of the things I see that's concerning is there aren't many new agencies. You don't see a lot of young folks starting up agencies. I think the youngest owner in the community is maybe 32. Mm-hmm. I've met some folks, they don't see themselves as agencies. They see themselves as creatives, but they spin up their own companies that are not doing services for others. But for the folks who do want to do that, I think it's still about finding ways to, this is so hard to explain. Because we're all distributed now, for the most part, they don't have internships, or they aren't the same. You're not riding shotgun with somebody and learning. Yeah. So I think the reality is you have to teach yourself to be relevant using the tools. You have to create, I don't want to say like a portfolio, but you have to show your ability to think, your ability to learn, your ability to adapt. So in a lot of ways, it's showing that you are engaged in evolution, right?
Yeah.
And bring things that the agency doesn't know because they want you to, right? We need people who are just coming out, who are not like, we have somebody on our team, Meredith, right? Meredith is 32, I think. She's not afraid of anything, right? And so, and that's not, and no offense, Meredith, if you're watching, that's not really young. Yeah. So to your point, Johnny, it's hard to say, right? But I would say people are going to be more interested in how you approach problems than how gorgeous that design is or how clever that headline was. They want to know that you can jump in, push back, and help.
Well, right. The fearless is great. I think that's totally important. And you said not portfolio, but I would say methodology. If you have a portfolio of this is how I tackled this problem, like that's what you need.
What's the process you use?
If you're not growth mindset, like I'm not interested as an agency manager or owner. But if you're maybe you have to be experimenting with the tools and figure out how to apply them to problems and realize where your discernment is needed.
Yeah. We could, I'm sure we could go another couple hours on this, but we're going to hit time here. I want to make sure people have contact information. Johnny, if people want to find out more about you, contact you, find out what you're doing, what's the best way to get that?
Honestly, LinkedIn is definitely the best way to find me. I'm JW Lee Hain on LinkedIn. If you Google Johnny Kickball, you will still find me with it.
Yes.
Johnny Kickball. All right. Carl, if people want to get a hold of you.
Happy. Yeah, I would say LinkedIn as well. It's Carl W. Smith. There are a lot of Smiths out there, but if you search Carl W. Smith at the Bureau, I'll pop up.
Perfect. And if anyone wants to get a hold of me, just Bruce Eckfeldt on LinkedIn. bruce@eckfeldt.com is my URL. Gentlemen, thank you so much for the time today. Like I said, we could go on for hours, and probably we could do this next week and everything will change. So
it will.
It's a great topic.
Thanks so much for bringing us together, Bruce. We really appreciate it.
No, it's a pleasure. And for folks listening, again, if you're watching the replay, go ahead and leave comments and questions. We'll check that in the coming days and weeks. But thank you everyone for joining. Take care, gentlemen.
Awesome.
Thank you.